Hello, everyone, and welcome to Game Changers, the future of play, where we explore AI, gaming, and the business of play. I'm Tony Callahan, joined by my podcast team, Sarah Ramos and Stephanie Ventura. Today, we're really excited to welcome Dave Ranyard. He's the CEO of Dream Reality Interactive, and he has a background spanning Sony, Vertex, and immersive entertainment. And we think he brings a unique perspective on how interactive and virtual experiences are shaping the future of play. Dave, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's nice to do something with you guys.
Thank you. So before we dive into some of the bigger trends that we are excited to talk about you with, I would love to start with a little bit more of your journey and how you got to where you are today. So going way back, how did you first get into the gaming industry?
It was in the last millennium. I was finishing a PhD in AI, actually. And as part of that, I was doing some teaching. One of the students I was teaching was a mature student who was opening a game studio in the university town of Leeds, where I was working and doing my PhD. And I decided to join them. I hadn't really thought of it as a career. I'd always worked in either academia or creative fields, and yeah, got into gaming a long time ago as a programmer, and then slowly but surely moved into production, and now I'd run a indie studio.
I love that. And it seems like you were kind of in AI before it exploded, which is also something that our company is kind of like. What made you choose to study that?
It was it was an opportunity, actually. It was just, I mean, it was quite academic and quite niche. It was actually quite a big project that was set up after the Chernobyl no nuclear accident. And the part that I did was looking at a mathematical model of how radiation transports across the landscape, and then using AI to update that model
Wow.
so that you could make better predictions. So it was just like an interesting opportunity, actually. And that's already done computer science, and I worked a bit in industry in more mainstream software, and I wasn't particularly taken with it. And then this opportunity of the PhD came up, which I thought was broadly for good, and it was also interesting. It was quite mathsy, which I liked at the time. It was like maths and computer science combined to create this AI system. So that's, and then I taught AI as well. But I mean, the compute power then was negligible, you know. Um, I mean, I don't know, I mean, my fridge has got more compute power than that has than we had then. So, it was interesting to learn all those approaches. It wasn't generative AI, it was more like um, decision making AI, I guess. But nevertheless, it's given me good stead for what I've done since then.
Yeah, very cool. I love that. Very, very smart to be using it to, help people stay healthy and safe. Your background, sorry, Sarah, did you, oh no, sorry, I thought I heard something that was so weird. Anyway, I wanted to ask, you spent time at, even like global game companies like Sony, and then now you are more of an entrepreneur and you founded Dream Reality Interactive. What inspired you to start your own studio?
So I had a great time at Sony. I did 17 years there, and I did a lot of, I mean, there was this kind of awful term called intrapreneur that's been used, where you can do different things within a company. And I kind of did a bit of that inside Sony. So I started as a programmer, but then I built the recording studios and then started looking after some of the branding and video assets, and then all the music. I've got a music background as well, so I ended up running quite a big music game and also setting up some of their music licensing. So I think I've always had that like desire to do a cool new thing, or just get excited about something and want to do it. And I guess probably ultimately at Sony, I did really enjoy my time, but ultimately I decided I wanted to do it on my own. I had done some entrepreneurial things when I was a lot younger. So actually at 17, I opened a vintage clothes shop for a couple of years before university. So I'd already had a little bit of that taste of that, and I just wanted to do it again, and I got the opportunity to do it with, we call it DRI now, and yeah, it's actually 10 years now. So 10 years in September. So I'm quite excited about that.
Congratulations. I love that. It
Thanks.
seems like you've always had that spirit then to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I love it.
definitely.
Well, I'd love to zoom out a little bit and get your perspective on where gaming is headed right now. What would you say is a key trend that's impacting your area right now?
Well, interesting. Maybe it's something you're not going to expect me to say, but actually, I'm very interested in web games,
Hmm.
right? Because there's a lot of the big mobile companies started out as these web game companies. Like King were one, Miniclip were one, and then they kind of mobile came along, and I mean, how many people have got smartphones? What is it, a couple of billion or something like that? And obviously that changed everything. But now the sort of power of web games, which is incredibly frictionless, is such that you can get a very good experience on web. It's very similar to what you'd have on mobile just a few years ago. And the instant nature of them and the lack of download and the lack of app stores, although, the app stores obviously done a lot of good in terms of creating payment methods for people to create businesses and so on. But also, so I'm very interested in that. And actually, I'm looking at those opportunities and also how we can uh, find an audience there, but also it's very easy now to understand how the audience is playing your games. You can have a very, very direct relationship with your players through those. So although they're not like big AAA console or PC games or even AAA mobile games, there's something inherently wonderful about the instant nature of them. And I think we'll see more and more of that. So it's an area that I'm actually focused quite heavily on. And I'm also very interested. At the moment, the audience there is quite young. But I think that's an opportunity. Like you can find your audience and grow with your audience. And I also think, and we're starting to see quite big IP, or certainly big double A IP, let's say, interested in web as a way of actually being everywhere. So I think probably perhaps another trend that goes with this is that people's expectation and also developers' desire is to have their games everywhere. So if you're into, game X, well, you can play it on PlayStation, you can play it on PC, you can play it on your phone, but actually you can play it on web as well, and you can play it, it might be a lighter version or whatever, but and I think that social experiences on web are going to become bigger and bigger because then, you can be sitting at the airport but still having a bit of fun with your friends on a game or something.
I love that. Yeah, certainly I think, even if you're, having to deal with a light version or something on the web, but certainly being able to be closer to the gamer in the audience and know, how they're feeling, what they're saying. It seems like that's a trend that we always hear is really important to these studios. So that
Hmm.
definitely makes sense. How would you say you're approaching challenges in your day to day?
Well, it definitely has been a challenging time for the industry. We kind of COVID was amazing if you had games in the market that had traction because people had all this free time. But if you didn't, it was quite a challenging time. Then we came out of it and thought, oh, great, we're out. And then the sort of world economics and I think a sort of perfect storm really of challenging economics, um, opportunities for investors to go elsewhere. They'd seen games as a great opportunity a few years earlier. It's like, well, actually, this is harder than it looks. Um, and then also, I think there was probably overinvestment because of the pandemic that those that did make a lot of money then invested and then realized oh, actually people are going back into the office, they haven't got this time, etc. And then added into that AI coming to improve workflows and so on. So that's caused quite a lot of challenges for us. But I mean, my personal thing is if you have a bad day, i.e., something happens, you didn't get the pitch that you wanted, or a key person leaving, or whatever it is, terrible review, whatever it is, you're allowed to be miserable till you go to bed, and then the next day you've got to get up and just carry on. That's it. You can have a little bit of misery and a bit of self like the duvet of misery. You can enjoy it for that night only, and then next day you've got to get up and carry on, and that's I go by that.
I like that. It's very, very refreshing. Every day is a new opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, ultimately, right, we're making video games. It's not open heart surgery.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? So if you have a bad day, well, no one's died.
yeah,
It's just things didn't go
definitely.
your way. Yeah.
I love that. Well, I feel like that bleeds into a little bit of last question from me. Can you share one actionable lesson or piece of advice for studios or executives?
I mean, the thing I have actually learned a lot more since leaving PlayStation, because PlayStation was so big that other people would do certain parts of the puzzle for you. But the big thing I've learned is understand the audience. They're your customers, they're your clients, actually. And so really understand what their needs are, what they want, and also find an audience. Have you if you're creating something new, it's harder and harder to create new IP. I mean, the big brands are now, the big brands used to be every 3, 4, 5 years. So there was a lot of space in between for smaller things. Now they're on 24/7, Even like the sports teams have a couple of months off, but the big games don't, right? So creating new IP is harder and harder, but it's really about finding that audience, finding a niche. And ultimately the audience is always changing and shifting. There's always like older ones leaving, new ones coming in. And so there's always that opportunity to find that, I genuinely believe, but you need to do that bit of work as well. That's that's probably my biggest learning from being an independent, that's the actually you almost need to start there and work back. Not, I don't mean to be completely cynical, but that needs to be part of the whole equation.
Yeah, no, that makes sense for sure.
All right. So before we jump into those rapid fire questions, I want to ask you something about AI that kind of piqued my interest. So with your background in AI and computer science, I'm sure you didn't just stop using AI. You're probably pretty excited about everything that's going on now. How are you applying AI today in gaming?
So right now we use it in I know quite a lot of our pre-production. So I mean, the thing I like the most, actually, this probably is an answer to a later question, is using notes on my phone so I can babble out a load of nonsense and put it into AI, and it comes back and it's kind of tidied it up. That's my personal most useful note. But I do find AI very interesting, very useful. I'm still slightly, I have called myself in the past an AI a mild skeptic for two reasons. One is because I think some things that are coming through are over promising. And so, yes, AI can do this, it can do that, it can do the other, but it can't do this thing or that thing. So I think I do have some concerns that there's over optimism about how much it will save and things like that, or bits that you don't perhaps realize a human is doing actually get missed. So I think that that's one thing. And the other thing is there is a similarity between generative AI and how it has been trained and sampling music, right? So if you think of sampling music in the 80s, it took us a bit of time. Some people hated it and some people got really angry that the music was sampled, and probably rightly so at the time. It's new technology. It wasn't all being like treated appropriately. I think we still have a bit of work to do on that, So certainly now I'm seeing more and more AI companies using licensed data to train, which I think is great, but some are kind of a bit, oh, well, this data's out in the world. It's like, yeah, but it might still be somebody's work that they just made last year. I mean, and particularly if you look at music, this can be. So I think there's a bit of work there to get through. Having said all that, I am very excited. And I think the future is much more about actually very creative teams, smaller teams, building games, because what the AI can do, and I think should do, is take out some of the monotony. So, I mean, you can now populate spreadsheets and calculate things and do all this stuff that might have taken you, a couple of days before or whatever. And it's so I'm very interested in it giving us as much creative opportunity as possible. And I often look at, I'm babbling a bit, but anyway, I often look at music, right? Because music is a single, it's a linear source. So it's the easiest. If you think of, you've got music is one dimensional, film and TV is two dimensional, games is three dimensional because of interaction. So if you look at what's happened with music, you can kind of get a little vision of the future. And sorry, I'm going to have to just move it because the dog's whining a bit. Pixie, stop it. Go on. Okay. So sorry about that. What I've noticed with music in general, right? So in the 80s, we got the drum machine, and everybody got quite upset about drum machines at the time because it was putting drummers out of work. I'll be honest, nobody cares now, right? Who cares about the drum machine? Nobody. But also, all those drummers are now DJs. And so they've evolved to use the tools that have come along to do something cool. And nobody goes to a club to watch a drum machine. People go to a club to watch a DJ or a band that might have some electronic stuff. But ultimately, we as people are drawn to people. And if it's something creative, we're drawn to creative people. So I don't think there's a lot of scaremongering as well around the AI sort of conversation. I don't think it's going to replace creativity, but I think it's important to use it appropriately. And I do think we've got a bit of work to get through And the legal bit sounds boring, but to get through the fairness of how it's used. Is that an answer? I can't remember what the question was.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And your feedback here is super important, right? Because you've seen it from the very beginning up until now, what's happening. And you're right, there is a lot of marketing fluff. So hearing your experience and the way that you see the world is important for our viewers. So thanks for sharing that.
No worries.
All right, so I will go ahead and jump right into those rapid fire questions if you're ready. Designed to be quick question, quick answer, but feel free to add some details if you'd like to. Favorite video game or gaming memory?
So favorite video game, I traditionally say is Sonic the Hedgehog, because I just remember when I first got it, it was like having an arcade machine at home, which was awesome. However, I've been recently playing Tomb Raider, and I'm quite a big fan of Tomb Raider as well. So it's a bit of a tie between Sonic and Tomb Raider. That's my
great
answer. But I love them both for different reasons.
I love that answer. And I have to add on that I loved Sonic the Hedgehog on Sega Genesis as a kid. That was, I mean, that music when he's running through the coins isn't so nostalgic.
yeah, it is. I basically buy that game on every platform and then play it again, which is really sad, but you know.
That's awesome. I love that. Second question, one tool or technology that you can't live without. It can be in your regular life or business. You decide.
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched on it earlier, but I actually love the fact that I can like speak and just get everything out of my mind and then have it turn up as text and then have the text tidied up. I think that to me is just like magic. So I really like, that's probably the thing I love. Just a real simple, but it's, I mean, even a few years ago, like I discovered a website that could do it. And so I've actually been doing it probably a lot longer than it's just been in like our phones, maybe 5, 6, 7 years. And I find that it helps me a lot, because I'm not, when I write things with a pen, I can't read it afterwards, and I'm not that good at typing. So it helps me a great deal. I can just, it's like flow, you know, you can flow your thoughts out and then edit it. So I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Searchable, easy to find. It's not crumbled up in a wastebasket somewhere, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
All right, next question. Biggest trend in gaming or AI that excites you?
I mean, I'd probably refer back to the web gaming stuff that I think is going to be pretty big again. It has been before, and there's already people doing decent money with it. And I think it's going to be a trend that we see. You know, love the app stores, but they take quite a big chunk. And you know, discovery is difficult, etc. This is it's a more direct way of having a relationship with your fans and with your players.
Love that. What's one skill studio leaders will need much more of in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I think the studios of the future are going to have less people in them. I think there'll be more outsourcing, and so it'll be more about running a really creative team and nurturing that team. So I think it's probably, for me, it's about finding and nurturing talent and building a tight and creative team that can, you know, be as excellent as possible. I think which is slightly different to running a team of, you know, I ran a studio of 250 people, and it's like that, you know, that's a different thing. You're still like, you know, I'm not saying either one is better than the other, but I think it's going to be about smaller groups and really getting the opportunity for those to do the best as a creative team.
I love that. I think that's super important. And we've heard similar responses to that question before. So definitely agree. Last question for me. If you weren't in gaming, what would you be doing?
And so there's two things. One, you know, I was in academia for a while, which I enjoyed mainly because of the freedom. Like, it's really chill. Not chill, but you can, you know, you're just very autonomous, and you can. But also, I've done quite a lot of music in my career, so I'd either be an academic or a failed musician, or both, I reckon.
Very cool. What kind of music?
Well, we were like a sort of electronic breakbeat. So if you know the band The Prodigy or the Chemical Brothers, and we played with The Prodigy and Bjork and a few other big bands probably before you guys were born, in the 90s. I toured California in the 90s, actually. So, and played the LA, what was it called? The Hollywood Athletic Club. and I've played this place, the DNA Lounge, which actually weirdly, so I played that. It's in San Francisco, and then the last 2 years of GDC, I've DJ'd there as well
Oh my
as part
gosh.
of a sort of party at GDC. So that's been pretty good. So yeah, I mean, if I could choose, I'd be doing music and probably DJing, and if I didn't make it as that, then I would be an academic, I think.
Very
Very
cool. And I
cool.
think we should mention here too that you're going to be speaking at GDC coming
I
up. So
am.
if you want to say really quickly what you're
I'm
talking
doing
about.
3 different things, which is worrying. So the first one is we've done this for the last 2 years. It's called the Production Workshop, and it's designed for producers of all levels to come and workshop through. So it's not a bunch of lectures, it's more a bit of chat, working in groups on tables, and we go through the whole production cycle. And there's also like quickfire mentoring, there's a panel discussion. So it's really good for producers to network and just let their hair down and have a bit of a moan about everybody else in the office, which is really good. And then I'm also part of 4 mini talks on leadership. And I am talking about not making decisions and that's really a decision. And then the third one I'm doing is actually with another studio called Singer Studios, and that's with a very talented game maker called Eloise Singer, who made an Emmy-nominated game with Lucy Liu. And we're talking about how a small indie studio like hers can think big with creating IP that crosses out of just games into other places. So they're the 3 different things, and I've got to practice them and get them ready.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, we're wishing you the best of luck and hope you have a wonderful event.
Yeah, thanks very much. Well, thanks for getting me to do the podcast. That's great.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time, especially because it sounds like you're quite busy. You've got a lot coming up, so we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights. And best of luck. We'll look forward to seeing your posts from GDC.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. For anyone listening, please follow Game Changers, the Future of Play on Spotify, or visit us at secure.qs.ai, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Dave.
Bye.
Hey, Dave.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.